Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Once Umar radiallahu ta'ala an, while he was a Khalifa, was approached by a young man, and the young man said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, uridu an utalliqa zawjati. The young man said, O leader of believers, I want to divorce my wife. فقال عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه ولما. Umar asked, well, why? What's going on? فقال إني لا أحبها. The young man responded and said, I no longer love her. I just don't love her anymore. فقال عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه أو كل البيوت بنيت على الحب فأين المروءة فأين الذمة فأين الوفاء. Umar رضي الله تعالى عنه responded to the young man and said, and do you think homes are built just on pure love? Where is the wafa? Where is the loyalty? Where is the ethics? Where is the trust? Umar radiallahu ta'ala an is teaching us something very powerful that we here in the West really need to acquaint ourselves with. And that is, marriage isn't simply love. Being married to someone isn't purely built on love. It's built on love, and that's important, yes. But it's also built on this agreement, this trust, this ethics that you entered into the relationship upon. You know, when you got married and you did your nikah, you did your Islamic marriage, what was said? I take this wife, this lady, under the name of Allah, based on the Quran, based on the Sunnah. And the young lady accepted that proposal. Do you know what that means? We're entering to this marriage understanding that I have responsibilities towards my spouse, that we're entering into a union that requires work, it requires effort. Yes, love is important. I'm not trying to downplay it here. But a home isn't built based on love or purely based on love. It's built based on love, ethics, responsibilities, and loyalty. And so part of building the Muslim family is really being real with ourselves and understanding what marriage is, especially the phases of marriage. So many people go and they're convinced that divorce is the only way for between him and his wife, or between her and her husband. And I'm really starting to wonder, after I learn and gain more experience, the high divorce rate, is that really necessary? Or is what is going on a very naive understanding, a very shallow understanding of what a home is? And so inshallah, in today's video, let's look at the 3 phases of married life to better prepare ourselves mentally for the future and for building a home, but also, if we're within one of these phases, to appreciate the fact that what's going on is perfectly normal. And to do that, the phases of marriage are 3. There are 3 phases. Each phase is 20 years. The first 20 years of marriage, the second 20 years of marriage, the third 20 years of marriage, give or take. Now, the first phase, the first 20 years, is split into 2 phases. The first 7 years of marriage, problems tend to occur between husband and wife in terms of communication. They're still learning how to communicate to one another. They're still trying to realize, this person's presence in my life. Yes, it takes 7 years. It sounds like a lot, but it actually does take 7 years. And so most of their arguments tend to be, I misunderstood you, you misunderstood me. I said this, why didn't you listen to me? Oh, I thought you meant that. Or what did you mean by that? And this is where all the arguments revolve around. So communication, problems, and it takes time. So if you're in the first 7 years of marriage, then expect this. It's perfectly normal. It doesn't mean the other person doesn't love you. It doesn't mean there isn't love. It just means that you're going through life as life is naturally meant to be. Communication and developing that communication. The second phase of the first phase, the second part of the first phase, is about the next 13 years. Here, the problems tend to revolve around distribution of responsibilities. By now, the couple has 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 children, and they're still young. Maybe one of them is in school, but generally speaking, these children are docile, they're easy to manage, so to speak. Yeah, it takes effort, it takes time, but they're not in the rebellion phase. They're not in the phase where I'm going to do what I want. They're kids, they listen to their parents, but where do the problems come in? What is the responsibilities of the wife towards her children? And what are the responsibilities of the husband towards his children? Husband comes home from a long day of work. The wife, assuming she's a stay-at-home mom, she's been at home taking care of these kids, feeding them, playing with them, doing all these activities with them. As soon as the husband comes home, it's almost like she takes the children and throws them on the husband. Okay, it's your turn now, go. The husband says, I just got home. I'm hungry. I'm tired. Can I rest for a few minutes? Why do I have to take on these responsibilities? Why aren't they already satisfied in terms of activities and play? This is where the arguments begin. And guess what? That's perfectly normal. You're figuring it out. Doesn't mean love is gone. It doesn't mean there's no longer love. That's the first phase. The second phase, the next 20 years, is really about how do we raise our children? How do we deal with our children? See, the first phase is more about responsibilities in general. The second phase, now the children are becoming teenagers. They're becoming assertive. They want to do what's in their mind. And they're starting to push back against what the parents are saying. And the mother has a way of engaging her children, her teenagers. The father has a different way. And what happens is sometimes they don't see eye to eye, husband and wife I'm talking about, when it comes to how do we deal with our children. The father wants to be tough and wants to punish the children. The mother is softer. No, please don't do that. And it becomes a point of tension between husband and wife. Also at this time, the responsibilities become more and more. The concerns become more and more. Where's my child? Are they hanging out with the right people? Where are they going? Why aren't they home on time? And all of this stuff begins to stress out the children. The father's now worrying about the college tuition of his children. Now they start needing cars. And so the pressure builds on both husband and wife. And one of the things that happens during these 20 years is that the husband and wife become more distant from each other. But again, doesn't mean they don't love each other. Doesn't mean that love isn't there. This is a natural part of living. What happens sometimes, people who are within the second phase of marriage, they think there's no longer any love, and therefore, there's no point of them being married because marriage is just about love. But Umar radiallahu ta'ala is teaching us what? It's not just about love. You think your home is being built just purely on love? You remember the 20 years prior to this phase? Remember all the love that you had together, all the excitement that you had together, the promises you made to each other, the commitments you made to each other? Where did all that go? Where did all that go? Love isn't just passion and emotions and this good feeling in the heart. Love is being loyal to your spouse. Love is being ethical towards your spouse, committed towards your spouse. And the fact that the husband is going and getting the money and taking care of all the finances, and the mother, maybe she's working, but maybe she's at home, they're participating in the family affairs. You're building a home together. Appreciate that. Yes, it's kind of on pause for many people in terms of that emotional connection. Doesn't mean it's gone. You're just building a home, as Umar radiallahu ta'ala an is teaching this young man and is teaching us. Just because you don't feel like you love her anymore doesn't mean you don't love her anymore. And just because you don't feel that love as you used to feel it earlier in marriage doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean you're no longer building a home, that the marriage is no longer worth pursuing or worth committing to. And then the third phase of marriage, the next 20 years, now the children are, they themselves married, they're all moved out, you're now just you and your spouse. In this point, in this phase, husband and wife become closer than they've ever been. And they say that in the Arabic language, that sometimes these older couples are so close to each other they begin to even look like each other, subhanAllah. So after 20 years of being a little bit distant, they come back together. But nonetheless, there are still problems that occur. What are those problems? Over the grandchildren. How do we deal with the grandchildren? Do we spoil them? Do we not spoil them? What is our role in their lives? How often do we need to visit them? The problems happen again. But guess what? It's normal. That's life. And that's love. This is how a home is built. This is what our leader Umar radiallahu ta'ala an is teaching us about the Muslim family. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.